Hello, everyone. It's Tabby Biddle of tabbybiddle.com. I am a wise women's leadership coach, helping wise women change makers amplify their voice in the world. Today is Gloria Steinem's 80th birthday. 80th birthday. Wow. What a woman. What an incredible pioneer, role model, inspiration, torch carrier. Just an incredible woman. She's had a deep influence on my life, and when I have trouble speaking out and have trouble really coming forward with my voice, my truth, my beliefs, my values, the change that I want to see in the world, I think of her and I get inspired. So that's exactly what happened yesterday for me. I was feeling a little bit blocked over the past few weeks with my writing. We've been doing so much video on this journey together that I haven't really sat down to write. Yesterday I did, on the eve of Gloria Steinem's 80th birthday. And so I'd like to share the piece with you that I wrote that was published today in the Huffington Post. Here we go. Today is Gloria Steinem's 80th birthday. The mother of the women's movement, the mother of feminism, second wave, that is. She who paved the pathway for our physical, psychological, political, social, economic, and vocal liberation as women in the 21st century. While Gloria opened the door for us, she acknowledges that there's a lot left to do. And she encourages us over the next half century to think big, unite, and use our power. After all, she wrote in an essay in Ms. Magazine, movements have to last at least a century to become part of global culture and everyday life. So, how will we unite and use our power in the next 50 years of feminism? Over the last 3 weeks, I've been thinking a lot about this. It's Women's History Month, and being a writer on women's rights, leadership, and empowerment, one would assume I would have published several pieces by now this month. But there has been something sitting in me, incubating in me. And how fitting that on the eve of Gloria Steinem's 80th birthday, I found my fortitude to give voice to it. Gloria, as usual, has served as an inspiration for me to use my voice. Right now, we are in the fourth wave of feminism, but for many, this wave has yet to be clearly defined. Some say it's a movement of younger, technically savvy women who are using social media to speak out and organize against sexual violence, sexual harassment, racist and sexist stereotyping, body shaming, and workplace discrimination. Others say it is a new kind of political activism based in feminine spirituality, where women are reclaiming the goddess religion and their feminine spiritual past as a means to remember and reclaim their spiritual, political, and economic power and authority. While others say the movement is based on reclaiming our feminine sexuality as sacred, as it was during the long reign of the goddess. Is it possible that it could be all of these things? Beginning in the late 1960s, during Gloria's second wave of feminism, there was talk of feminine spirituality as an important aspect of female liberation. Women gathered in circles and talked about the goddess, talked about their experiences, and participated in rituals that honored the feminine. While these circles were strong, there seemed to be a separation between these women and the women who were more on the political front lines. The spiritual ones believed that the work could be accomplished from their inner work, otherwise known as the inner psychic reality creates the outer material reality, or the personal is political. And the political ones believed that the spirituality circles were too inwardly directed and not effective on a material level. The spiritual political integration never really took off at that time, and as a result, neither did the integration of sacred sexuality. into the feminist movement. Certainly, the movement was about sexual liberation and equality, but the sacred part never made it into the primary socio-political conversation. Now, what needs to be shared here is that something many people forget, or maybe they don't even realize, is that the spirituality of women, otherwise known as feminine spirituality, long predates male religion. Father God is actually a spiritual newcomer relative to the Mother Goddess. Archaeologists and historians from around the world have discovered massive amounts of evidence showing us that during a period of approximately 25,000 years, that would be from 30,000 BC to around 4,500 BC, society and culture the world over was based on the mother principle. The goddess was the primary religious symbol and leader. As women today are the givers of life, the ones who birth, the goddess was the spiritual representation of that magnificent gift. She was the creator, or the creatrix, that's the word I prefer, and she was where all life started. Does that sound familiar to you? The difference between then and now is that back then she was revered for this magic ability to hold, to carry, and to birth life. And her body was sacred, seen as a beautiful vessel of the life force. Not only was woman spiritual leader during these many thousands of years, she was also the economic, social, and political leader. Children took the name of their mother's tribe or clan, and the titles, possessions, and territorial rights passed through the female line. Women not only provided human life and social structure, but also a controllable food supply. In addition to being able to provide food from her body for her young, she was the food gatherer, and according to respected archaeologists like Maria Gimbutas, she was responsible for the development of agriculture. But somehow all of this goes unnoted in our current review of history. Today, over 3,000 sites have been documented, and tens of thousands of miniature sculptures and figurines of goddesses have been found. And according to Bettany Hughes, who's a historian in the UK, if you look at all the human figurines that have been discovered dated from 40,000 BC to 1,000 BC, 92% of those are in the female form. That says something, doesn't it? But why is this history not taught to our children in school? And why do they not learn about this part of their lineage? There are some who say that male religion and culture worked very hard to strategically obliterate the history of the goddess and female-oriented religion and culture over a period of about 2,000 years. So that takeover happened between approximately 4,500 BC to 2000 BC. And some say that, in fact, the goal of the writers of patriarchal religions and mythologies was to legitimize the new culture of patriarchal warriors and delegitimize the goddess. The Bible was written not long afterwards, and in this document, the creation story was written where it took the power of birth away from woman, right? It was given to Father God, who was said to have created Adam, and then Eve created from the rib of Adam. Okay, so then it went on to debasing woman's body and her sexuality. Eve was made the temptress, and her naked body, sinful. The story then became her action of picking the apple from the tree of life led to the downfall of all of humanity and the onset of evil in our world. So that feels like a pretty heavy burden to carry for women, doesn't it? Her sexuality, rather than being sacred, as in goddess times, was now seen as the cause of evil temptation in man. So is it any wonder why generations of women now, us, carry deep body memories of guilt and shame, and why violence against women is justified in many cultures. Women today living in patriarchal society are cut off from their true roots as divine beings. As girls go to school in the United States and say, like I did as a girl growing up, the Pledge of Allegiance, right? Remember this? They're taught that they're to live in one nation under God. As girls go to church or to temple or a mosque, and in a number of mosques, girls are actually not permitted, they are taught to worship a man. And the religious doctrines and texts that they follow tell them that they are second-class beings and that violence against them is condoned. Yes, the Bible and the Quran advocate murder of women. So, when there is an absence of this topic of feminine spirituality in any discussion on women's empowerment and women's leadership in the 21st century, I get a lump in my throat and a burning in my heart and a strong desire to say, we have to wake up to her. We have to. It is time. It's not easy, I'll tell you, to stand up in front and say this to large numbers of people. It's much easier to stay in small women's circles with women who get it and want to learn more about their goddess lineage so that they can become fully empowered. It's easier to kind of hang back and wait for others to give you permission to take the podium. I'm very familiar with this, rather than taking the podium without hesitation, like Gloria, to speak the truth of what you know to be right and good. What Gloria Steinem taught us was to use our voice. She taught us to take a stand for what we believe is right. She taught us to be straightforward and compassionate at the same time. She taught us to listen to others, but to always stand our ground in our beliefs. If this next wave of feminism is to succeed in ensuring our rights and liberation as women and to carry on Gloria's legacy, we must revisit our past lineage that predates patriarchal religion and culture. We cannot find our own power within a half-truth. Girls and boys growing up need to learn in their world civilizations classes or other classes in schools about the feminine-based culture that came before male-based culture. In their textbooks, they need to see the continuum and they need to know the full human story, as far as we know it to this point. So on a global level, as the United Nations devises their post-2015 agenda and how they're going to address gender inequality,